Imagine this. You wake up in a room with no walls. The space is infinite yet eerily silent. There's no ceiling, no floor, just a soft hum, like the low murmur of the universe itself. You look down and realize your body isn't your body. It's a collection of light and vibration, shifting, pulsing, responding to something. But what? You reach out to grasp the sound, to understand the frequency you're caught in, but the more you try, the more it slips from your awareness. You sense you've heard this hum before, not in dreams, not in silence, but in every moment you were close to truth and didn't know it. Every goosebump, every shiver of intuition, every sense that something was off in the world, it was always there, hiding in the background. Now imagine waking up every day in the physical world, wearing your skin like armor, your voice like a borrowed melody, and your choices shaped by vibrations you never tuned yourself. You follow routines, obligations, identities, names given to you before you even had language to say no. You smile when expected, feel sadness when permitted, and call that freedom. But what if none of it is truly you? What if the self you've been calling you isn't the original signal, but static? What if your entire life has been lived under someone else's frequency, calibrated not for truth but for control? We grow up being told to find ourselves, as if the soul is some misplaced item tucked between school grades and job applications. But what if the soul doesn't need to be found, only unmuted? You sense it, don't you? That strange, haunting sense that something is missing, not outside you, but within. A frequency you've heard in moments of clarity, only to be drowned out again by the noise of life. You felt it while staring into the void of the night sky, or standing at the edge of the ocean, where the wind speaks in riddles. You've sensed it during heartbreaks and epiphanies, in tears that didn't make sense, in dreams that wouldn't die. That feeling, vague yet visceral, isn't confusion, it's signal distortion. So let me ask you, if your truest frequency has been buried beneath layers of conditioning, how would you even recognize it? Is it the stillness beneath your thoughts? The scream you silence with distraction? The joy that makes no sense in a broken world? Or is it something older, primordial? A note struck in the soul before your first breath? Here's the great paradox. You've always been you, yet you've never met yourself. Not fully, not undistorted. What you call your identity may just be an echo, reflections of other people's projections, amplified by repetition, cemented by fear. Have you ever wondered why so many people feel hollow after achieving what they thought would fulfill them? Why even love, success, and recognition feel like water that won't quench thirst? It's because you were never meant to feel whole through external frequency. You were meant to resonate, but resonance requires truth. And truth is often the most terrifying thing of all, because it doesn't come dressed in comfort. It comes roaring through illusion, ripping away everything that isn't real. It doesn't whisper, it demands. So what if everything you've ever labeled as anxiety, discontent, depression, what if these weren't signs of brokenness, but signals of misalignment? Warnings that your soul was tuned to a frequency that didn't belong to you. Ask yourself this. If you could strip away every expectation, every label, every mask, what sound would be left? Would you recognize your own frequency if you heard it now? Or has the noise become so familiar that silence feels like death? We exist in a world where everything is amplified but almost nothing is authentic. Noise sells, distraction thrives. Truth, it whispers. And only those willing to get still enough, brave enough, broken enough ever really hear it. So then the question isn't just, who am I? The deeper question, the one that fractures the walls of every illusion, is this. What is the frequency of my soul? And who would I become if I dared to unlock it? Don't answer yet, you're not ready to. First, you must understand why you've forgotten, why you've been deaf to yourself, why a world that profits from your confusion has invested so much in keeping you out of tune. And once you see that, truly see it, you'll never hear silence the same way again. You weren't born out of alignment, no one is. You arrived whole, raw, untouched, humming with your own unmistakable vibration. but almost instantly the tuning began. First, it was the lullabies, the rituals, the soft commands disguised as love, and then came the shaping. Be a good girl, be a strong boy, don't cry, don't speak out, don't be too much. These weren't just words. They were tuning forks, each one adjusting your signal ever so slightly, until eventually you began to vibrate to someone else's rhythm and call it your own. The hidden problem isn't just that you've been conditioned, it's that the conditioning was invisible, and what is unseen cannot be questioned, only obeyed. Carl Jung warned of this danger when he wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." How much of your life have you called fate when it was merely programming? How many of your choices were actually inherited beliefs, genetic memories passed down through family trauma, social norms, and collective fear? Jung also spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to navigate society. It keeps us safe, accepted, but over time the mask fuses with the face, and we forget what lies beneath. The persona becomes our prison. Now add to that Nietzsche's thunderous critique of herd morality. Society, he said, doesn't want you free. It wants you predictable. It praises conformity and punishes authenticity. Nietzsche saw how even our morals could be manipulated to maintain order rather than truth. When he declared, "God is dead," he wasn't celebrating chaos. He was mourning the loss of a center, a compass, that once gave us true orientation. And in its absence, humans became vulnerable to new masters, institutions, ideologies, and illusions. Do you feel it now, the ache of an inner compass shattered? You were taught to look outward for direction, rules, systems, leaders, likes, followers. But the price of that obedience was the silencing of your inner signal, like a symphony drowned by static. Arthur Schopenhauer went deeper still. He believed life was driven by a blind, insatiable will, a restless striving that never ends. But what if that will isn't hunger? It's signal-seeking expression, a frequency trying to break through the noise to manifest into something real, something meaningful. It's not just philosophical, it's neurological. The human brain is a prediction machine. It prefers patterns over truth, comfort over clarity. Once a belief is accepted, your brain filters reality to match it. This is called confirmation bias. And when you live by external frequencies, the brain becomes an echo chamber, reinforcing the false self while burying the true one deeper. You don't see the world, you hallucinate it, based on your past, your trauma, your beliefs. Neuroscience proves this. The world you experience is a construct, updated by signals your brain allows through a narrow filter. But what if your filter was built by fear? Aldous Huxley warned of this in Brave New World, a society where pleasure and comfort are tools of control. We are not enslaved by chains, he argued. We are pacified by entertainment, saturated by distractions, overfed but undernourished. What better way to suppress your frequency than by keeping you addicted to noise? Social media has become our cathedral, validation our sacrament, but every like is a borrowed echo, and every trend followed is a vibration not your own. And yet we chase them, not because we are shallow, but because we are starving. Starving for resonance, for connection to something real. Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of bad faith, living a life in denial of your own freedom. It's not that we can't choose, it's that we refuse to. We play roles, follow scripts, tell ourselves we have to, because the alternative, radical freedom, is terrifying. True freedom isn't convenient, it's disorienting. It strips away your story, your identity, your excuses. It leaves you naked with only one question echoing in the void. What now? That's the moment you begin to remember the signal. Viktor Frankl, a man who endured the unspeakable horrors of the Holocaust, discovered something profound in the midst of suffering. He wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. And in our choice lies our growth and our freedom. That space is where your true frequency lives, not in reaction, not in compulsion, but in choice. But you cannot choose from a place you do not know. You cannot hear a signal you've never been taught to recognize. And so, the hidden problem persists. You wander through life feeling a strange dissonance, sensing that something's off but lacking the language to name it. You achieve but feel empty. You love but feel alone. You exist but don't feel alive. That is not a failure, it is a message. The discomfort is a signal. The signal is truth. And the truth is this: you have been tuned to a frequency that keeps you functional but not fulfilled, efficient but not alive, visible but not seen. You are haunted not by emptiness, but by echoes of a frequency that is yours and yours alone, buried beneath expectation, trauma, fear, and imitation. And the most tragic part, most people never realize it. They live and die in borrowed rhythms, mistaking movement for meaning, noise for music, and conformity for peace. But you are beginning to hear it, aren't you? That subtle, haunting note beneath the static? That pull towards something deeper? Don't run from it. Don't numb it. Don't explain it away. It's your signal calling you home. But before you can follow it, you must see what happens when you ignore it. You must see the unseen consequences. And they are everywhere. End. Lord, of the most dangerous prisons are the ones you cannot see, and the most obedient slaves are the ones who believe they are free. When you lose touch with your true frequency, life doesn't stop. It just bends, quietly, invisibly, into something hollow. Like a tree growing toward a false sun, you twist yourself to match expectations, bending so long you forget what straight ever felt like. It begins subtly, a faint dullness. You laugh, but something inside you doesn't echo. You succeed, but the victory feels borrowed. You love, but there's a glass wall between your heart and the other person's. You start waking up tired, not from lack of sleep, but from an invisible weight you can't name. You don't realize it yet, but the cost of ignoring your frequency is cumulative. It doesn't scream, it drains. Psychologically, the misalignment manifests as chronic anxiety, depression, apathy. Not because your brain is broken, but because your soul is unheard. You're not malfunctioning, you're mismatched. Neuroscience tells us the brain forms pathways based on repetition. The more often you think a thought, the stronger the neural connection becomes. If every day you repeat the loop, "I have no choice, this is just how life is," then over time this belief becomes your reality, not because it's true, but because it's familiar. Familiarity is not truth. It's just comfort in captivity. Cognitive dissonance sets in when your inner world screams one thing, but your outer world demands another. Your biology rebels. Stress hormones flood your body. Your immune system weakens. Your sleep fragments. Your attention scatters. You scroll not because you're entertained, but because the silence beneath the screen terrifies you. Culture exploits this vulnerability. It packages frequencies into consumable identities. You're a this type of person. You belong in this tribe. These are your opinions. The more exhausted you are, the more easily you comply. The less tuned in you feel, the louder you shout, just to be heard, without ever being understood. You don't think freely anymore. You react. You mirror others. You scan constantly for cues. Am I accepted? Am I approved? Am I enough? But these questions have no end when you're disconnected from your own frequency, because the world outside was never built to answer them. Society runs on borrowed rhythms, and if you're not careful, you become a cog in a machine that doesn't know your name. This isn't paranoia, it's architecture. Think of advertising. It doesn't speak to your soul. It speaks to your insecurity. It whispers, "You are not enough, but buy this, and maybe you'll get closer." And we do. Not because we're vain, but because we're starving for resonance. And when we can't find the real thing, we settle for substitutes. Dopamine hits, polished surfaces, digital applause. But each hit pulls you further from your core. Until one day you look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize the eyes looking back. Not because you've changed, but because you've faded into the background noise of a world allergic to depth. This fading has consequences deeper than emotion. It reaches into your biology, your community, your very purpose. Have you noticed how the body speaks when the soul is ignored? It develops pain with no cause, fatigue without effort, sickness without origin. These aren't random. They're signals. The body's desperate attempt to say what the voice has been silenced from expressing. Your relationships suffer too. You attract others who match the frequency you project, not the one you suppress. So if you're vibrating from fear, you'll find others clinging to fear. If you vibrate with false confidence, you'll attract those who seek performance, not presence. True connection requires resonance. And resonance cannot be faked, so we drift. We perform. We chase love that doesn't nourish, careers that don't satisfy, lives that don't sing. We become specialists in distraction, experts in avoidance, masters of the maze. And the cost? Existence without essence, life without liveness, presence without presence. You know this state, you've lived it. You've looked at the clock at 3 a.m. and thought, is this it? Not because your life is terrible, but because it feels borrowed, scripted, like a dream someone else dreamed for you. Even your ambitions may not be yours. Ever wonder why reaching a long-desired goal sometimes feels like defeat? You get the degree, the house, the partner, and instead of triumph, there's a void. Because when your frequency is off, even success tastes like ash. You can't drink joy from a cup your soul didn't choose. Now widen the lens. Societies built on dissonance produce systems that reward conformity, not creativity. Education becomes memorization. Art becomes algorithm. Religion becomes rulebook. Even spirituality is commodified. Raise your vibration, manifest abundance, turned into slogans that ignore the deep, often painful excavation needed to truly tune in. This is not a conspiracy. It's a consequence. When enough people forget their frequency, the world starts spinning on a borrowed song. We become an orchestra of out-of-tune instruments, each playing louder to compensate for the dissonance, until no one can hear the melody beneath the noise. And that melody is still there, ancient, inviolable, yours. The most haunting consequence of all is this: your potential never dies. It waits. It waits beneath the clutter, beneath the fear, beneath the inherited scripts and algorithms and rituals you never questioned. It waits, in silence. But silence isn't emptiness. It's the birthplace of signal. It's where your true frequency hides, waiting to be remembered. And it can be remembered, but it will cost you. You will have to unlearn. You will have to dismantle. You will have to stop vibrating to the rhythm of survival and start living to the pulse of something sacred. Are you ready for that rebellion? Not the rebellion of rage, but of return. A return to what you were before the world told you what to be. Because that is where power lives, and it's waiting for you. Word O, to break free, you must be willing to burn. Not in the literal sense, but in the symbolic, the spiritual. You must let the false frequencies incinerate, the borrowed beliefs, the artificial roles, the mechanical routines. They must burn, all of them. Imagine this. You wake up and everything you've ever believed about who you are begins to melt. Not violently, but like fog under morning sun. You don't resist it because something deeper is waking up inside you. A signal you thought you'd lost, a vibration that's been calling to you all along. This is not a change, it's a return. But beware, the world will not clap for your awakening. In fact, it may punish you, because those who break free threaten the comfort of those still asleep. The rebellion begins with one decision: to stop reacting. Let that sink in. You stop responding to the pressures of expectation, the pull of fear, the constant need to explain yourself. You no longer perform, you no longer contort. You stand still and listen. This is what mystics call dying before you die. It's the death of false self, the ego-built identity stitched together by survival and applause. It's terrifying. You will feel alone at first, empty, But that emptiness is sacred. It is not a void, it is a clearing. And into that clearing, your real frequency will begin to return, not all at once, but in pulses like distant thunder announcing the arrival of a storm. Rebellion is realignment. You don't need to create your frequency. You need only remove what blocks it. And that means radical honesty. You begin asking questions not to be clever, but to reclaim your soul. What do I do because I want to? And what do I do because I'm supposed to? What makes my body feel alive, not just entertained? Where do I feel most like myself? And where do I perform? These are not surface-level questions. They are demolitions. Each answer cracks the concrete of conditioning, letting your original signal seep through. The great mystic Gurdjieff said, "Man is asleep. He must first realize that he is asleep. Then he must wake himself." This is how you wake, by becoming aware of your own autopilot. You realize how many of your thoughts aren't truly yours. How much of your internal monologue is just an echo chamber of parents, teachers, media, culture. You start listening not to what's loudest, but to what's most consistent. The subtle current beneath your reactions, the truth that never changes even as your life does. That's your frequency. And once you feel it just once, it changes everything. You start making choices that look strange from the outside. You turn down promotions, leave relationships, abandon safe routines. Not recklessly, but with precision. Because now you're not choosing based on fear or lack. You're choosing based on resonance. You begin to tune in. And tuning in is a rebellion against everything the modern world has trained you to be. You stop multitasking. You sit in silence. You go for walks without your phone. You speak less. You listen more. Not to others, but to the space inside you that had been screaming under layers of noise. You begin to follow what the philosopher Krishnamurti called the flame of attention. Pure present awareness, not fragmented, not distracted. In this state, time slows, meaning returns. You find yourself enchanted by simplicity, a leaf's curve, the silence between words, the ache in your chest that says, "Yes, this is real." And here's the twist. As you tune in, you begin to vibrate differently. People notice, they don't understand what's changed, but they feel it. You radiate coherence, presence, power, not from control, but from clarity. You attract differently. You repel differently. The things that once drained you now bore you. The people who once needed you to shrink now fall away. Not because you're cold, but because you've stopped dimming. This is not selfishness. It's sanity. You realize that the most generous thing you can do for the world is be yourself fully, because only from alignment can you offer anything real. Everything else is performance, and performance is poison. And this isn't a theory. History is full of those who rebelled by tuning in. Think of Socrates, who drank poison rather than betray his inner signal. Of Jesus, who rejected empire and dogma to follow a kingdom not of this world. Of Buddha, who walked away from royalty in pursuit of inner stillness. Of Malcolm X, Frida Kahlo, Alan Watts, Simone Weil, all burned by the world for refusing to echo its rhythm. They were not perfect, but they were true. This rebellion is not about becoming someone new. It's about shedding everything you were never meant to carry. And here's the most beautiful part. You are not alone. There are others, quiet rebels, tuning in all around the world. You won't always find them on social media or in loud communities. You'll find them in the silence, in the eyes of someone who has stopped pretending, in the pages of a forgotten book, in the quiet of a forest, in a breath held between tears and truth. You'll know them not by their words, but by their frequency. And you'll begin to remember, you don't need to be taught how to tune in. You already know. You've always known. Beneath the noise, beneath the pain, beneath the masks, your signal is still there waiting. But remember, the rebellion never ends. This is not a one-time awakening. It is a lifelong practice. Every day you must choose resonance over routine. Every day you must listen again, Clear the clutter and return. You will forget. You will be seduced by the noise again. That's okay. The signal doesn't punish you, it waits. And when you return, it welcomes you always. Because your frequency is not a destination, it's a home. Let the section. Fire ultimate truth. The final, most powerful RW. Two-tone word. What if you were never meant to find your frequency? What if you were it all along, but the act of searching made you forget? Now sit with that for a moment. You've fought, unraveled, dismantled illusions, tuned in, broken. But here, at the edge of everything, comes the final paradox. There is no frequency to discover. There is only the one you've been suppressing while pretending you were lost. The signal is not something you catch like a radio wave. It is not outside you, waiting to be tuned into. It is the very essence of your being. What was always humming beneath your bones before the world layered you in noise. You were never meant to become. You were meant to remember. All the teachers, all the systems, all the truths, they were signposts. None of them could give you your frequency. The best they could do was remind you of what you already are. And here's the ultimate truth. You are not a receiver of frequency. You are the transmitter. You broadcast reality through the vibration of your being. Your thoughts don't just describe the world, they create it. Your beliefs bend time, attract events, sculpt relationships. Your unspoken energy rewrites the room before you even open your mouth. This isn't spirituality, it's quantum, it's biology, it's reality, stripped of illusion. You are not passive, you never were. When you're in alignment with your true frequency, you don't manifest outcomes, you resonate them into existence. The universe doesn't grant wishes, it mirrors coherence. Do you understand the gravity of that? It means your reality is not happening to you. It's responding through you, always. In every breath, every choice, every unnoticed thought. You are the drumbeat, you are the wave, you are the vibration. But most people don't feel this truth because they've confused silence for absence, stillness for emptiness, being for nothingness. But the deepest presence is invisible. You don't see a radio signal. You feel the music it delivers. Likewise, your power isn't in the things you do. It's in the frequency from which you do them. Two people can say, I love you. One transmits possession, the other transmits liberation. Two people can build an empire. One radiates fear of death, the other hums with reverence for life. Two people can sit in stillness. One is avoiding the world, the other is pulsing with the rhythm of God. And the difference? Frequency. Your frequency isn't just emotional, it's existential. It's the flavor of your soul before language got involved, before culture shaped your sound into something palatable, before survival taught you to play safe tones. So now, at this final juncture, you're faced with a radical choice, not to change your life, but to change the frequency from which you live it. Do you go to work because you must, or because your presence infuses the world with meaning? Do you speak because you fear silence, or because your words carry resonance? Do you love to escape yourself, or to dissolve the illusion of separation? This is the great mirror. Because when your frequency changes, everything changes. You notice the synchronicities, not as random magic tricks, but as reflections of internal coherence. Life stops resisting you because you've stopped resisting yourself. The obstacles don't disappear, but your perception shifts. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what am I broadcasting that invites this into my field? You don't blame the world, you begin to sculpt it. And now the final veil lifts. There is no separation between you and the universe. You are not a character in some grand story waiting for the author to reveal the next chapter. You are the pen, you are the ink. You are the parchment trembling under the weight of your own sacred vibration. Everything is frequency. Your body, frequency clothed in skin. Your emotions, frequency moving through form. Your thoughts, frequency shaped by belief. Your intuition, frequency unbound by language. And so, the most powerful realization is not some distant cosmic truth, but a return to what you knew as a child, before the programming, before the shame, before the fear. You are what you've been seeking. You are the sacred signal. You are the lost note in the universal song. And the moment you remember, the universe leans in, not to congratulate you, but to echo you. Because finally, it recognizes the sound. So what now? What do you do having touched this knowing? You live like your vibration matters, because it does. You speak with intention, not to manipulate, but to resonate. You walk into rooms not to dominate, but to harmonize. You hold space for silence, not because you're empty, but because you're so full it overflows into stillness. You stop chasing impact. You become impact, not by force but by frequency. You become the tuning fork that reminds others what their own note sounds like. And that perhaps is the greatest gift we can give to one another. Not information, not answers, but resonance. And if you ever forget again, and you will, that's okay. Because your frequency isn't fragile, it's infinite. It doesn't need your belief to exist. It only waits for your permission to be felt. So ask yourself now in this quiet moment, what if you stopped asking the world to reflect your worth and started vibrating as if you already knew it? What if, right now, in this breath, you stopped searching and started remembering? What if the next step isn't forward, but inward? The world doesn't need another trend. It needs truth. And your frequency, raw, real, unedited, is that truth. Let it hum. Let it ripple. Let it break things that need breaking. Let it rebuild what was once sacred. Because that sound, your sound, is ancient, and it is calling you in full script. Would you like a compiled and faux itome lion full script? Would you like a compiled and faux de-ilditing? Fire ultimate truth, the final most O.